Excellency Dato Lim Chok Hoi, Secretary General of ASEAN, Mr. Michael Heath, Chargé d'Affaires of the U.S. Mission of Thailand, Mr. Steve Olive, Mission Director of USAID's Regional Development Mission for Asia, Mr. Peter Collier, Chief of Party, USAID Wildlife Asia, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Swadee Krap, and a very good morning to you all. May I begin by warmly thank you, the U.S. Mission to Thailand and USAID Wildlife Asia, for co-organizing this timely and important forum in the wake of COVID-19 crisis. It is also my great pleasure to welcome you all to this forum to share our experiences and information, as well as to discuss on the way forward to counter wildlife trafficking in our region and beyond. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, during the last century, many people around the world have to rely on wildlife for their livelihoods and to meet their basic needs. Furthermore, demands for illegal live specimen, parts, and products of wildlife have occurred in many regions of the world. It has been evident that consumption of wild animals is related to emerging infectious diseases or EIDs in humans, including COVID-19. We have to admit that COVID-19 crisis is exacerbating the current planetary emergency of nature loss and climate change, putting the health of current and future generations at risk. As we are entering a post-COVID-19 landscape, I would like to encourage all of us to take this opportunity to strengthen our collaboration in protecting our biodiversity and ending the trade in illegal wildlife. Ladies and gentlemen, the Southeast Asia, or ASEAN, is a sub-region that occupies only 3% of the Earth's surface, but known as one of the global mega biodiversity regions, which is the home to many iconic species, both terrestrial and marine, that need to be preserved for our future generations. However, illegal trade in wildlife, value almost $20 billion annually, remains an ever-present ASEAN issue which contributes to the continuously dramatic decrease in populations of wild animals such as elephants, tigers, and pangolins. The sustainable use and illegal trade of wildlife are among the greatest challenges of ASEAN, as the economic, social, and environmental repercussions are severe and widespread in scale. The issue has recently gained the attention at the international political level. It is also currently recognized as one of the non-traditional threats to the national security of many countries. The Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment of Thailand is very well aware of this threat. We, thus, elevate our efforts in countering wildlife trafficking during the past decades. The 2019 Wildlife Conservation and Protection Act has been formulated and entered into force in order to enhance protection levels of endangered species. The penalties, both in terms of fine and imprisonment, have dramatically increased. I believe that the penalties for illegal wildlife trafficking in Thailand now are the strongest in the region, which hopefully can serve as an effective deterrence for wildlife crimes. The enactment of the 2019 Community Forest Act is also a strong societal driving force that encourages people and local communities to conserve as well as to enlarge the forest areas which serve as wildlife habitat, as well as the buffer zone for separating wild animals from humans. Ladies and gentlemen, as wildlife trade chain is the major contributor to the decreasing of wildlife population, it is essential to stop the supply chain. Within the supply chain itself, ASEAN has been considered as either transit or destination sites. Thailand, through ASEAN cooperation, has seriously fought against the illegal wildlife trade for decades, since the 13th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to CITES in 2004 in Bangkok, Thailand. The establishment of the ASEAN Wildlife Enforcement Network, or ASEAN WEN, in 2005 was the evidence of our regional vision and strong collaboration to combat wildlife trafficking. ASEAN WEN was served as a role model for regional cooperation that inspired other regions to create similar network and eventually connected to each other, which resulted in enhancing our efforts in combating illegal wildlife trade in many regions of the world. Later on, ASEAN WEN was further developed to be the ASEAN Working Group on CITES and Wildlife Enforcement since 2016. The special ASEAN ministerial meeting on illegal wildlife trade was also held in Chiang Mai, Thailand in 2019 to jointly put forward a policy against illegal trade of wild animals. The ASEAN ministers responsible for CITES and wildlife enforcement committed to step up our efforts in combating wildlife trafficking as well as to raise the people's awareness on dangers of wild animal consumption. The Chiang Mai Statement reaffirmed ASEAN's commitment to the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals on urgent action to end poaching and trafficking of illegal wildlife products. It is also highlighted the importance of the demand, production, and law enforcement with emphasizing on fighting against wildlife cybercrime. Such policies have been translated into action through the Plan of Action for ASEAN Cooperation on CITES and Wildlife Enforcement 2021 to 2025, focusing on the importance of partnership approach while reiterating the need to prevent the transmission of zoonotic diseases from wildlife to humans. As a matter of fact, no single country or region can fight this battle alone. Thailand has thus played an active role in global community such as under CITES and the Convention on Biodiversity in order to cooperate with other parties to respond to transnational wildlife crimes. Although we have put our utmost efforts to tackle the problems at all levels, as I mentioned, transboundary wildlife crime continues to be one of the most pressing challenges we are facing. This challenge has been made more difficult in the wake of the current pandemic. As we are entering the post-pandemic landscape, we have to put our nature on a path to recovery for the benefit of all people and the planet. We have to stop illegal, unregulated, and high-risk wildlife trade and consumption. I therefore would like to urge all of us to elevate our cooperation under the partnership approach to counter wildlife trafficking in our region and beyond. I sincerely believe that our endeavor will further our movement towards the achievement of ending illegal wildlife trade and will eventually contribute to the betterment of our natural resources and environment. I wish that the virtual forum today will advance our coordinated actions towards a more sustainable and resilient future. Thank you. ขอบคุณครับ